So here we are, January 3rd, 2025. Winter apocalypse 2025 is upon us, but it's probably not going to be that bad. However, I thought I would take this opportunity as one Southerner, or I wouldn't even say I'm a new Southerner. I've been down in the South for about 20 plus years, but I've learned quite a bit. I have lived in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. I've been in cold, snowy, icy conditions, and I've moved to the South, and I've learned some lessons about being a Southerner when there are extreme cold temperatures, um, deep freezes, and prolonged periods of extreme cold, and how to handle those, how we as Southerners handle those differently, and things that we need to be aware of and prepared for. And I thought I would take this opportunity to share that with you. So, a couple of key things that I would recommend somebody living in the South, whether you're new to the South, whether you're a young person who's owning your home for the first time or getting out there, when you have these deep freezes in the extreme southern states, south of I-10, anything like that, the first thing you need to learn how to do, in my opinion, and it's my opinion, and opinions are like buttholes, we all have them, and they all smell bad. But one of the things I would strongly encourage you to do is learn how to turn off the water to your property. There's going to be a master shutoff valve. If you have a standalone home, it's usually out in your front yard. There's like a little box in the ground. You pull up the lid, and there's a valve, and you can just turn that off, and that is the master shutoff valve for your property. That will stop the water. The reason you need to know that is because if you have a burst pipe, you're just going to start dumping water into your house, and you're going to have a lot of water damage, and that's going to get very expensive very quickly. So it is better to go ahead and, if you have that burst pipe, get out there as quickly as possible, shut off the water to your home, because as it thaws, whatever, you're going to have water pouring into your home, and you don't want that. Next up, how to protect your pipes to begin with. Man, I don't know. I don't really have a great answer for that. You do want to, if you have a sprinkler system, you can shut that off on the outside of the exterior of your house. There's going to be some valves for your sprinkler system. You can shut those valves off. There's going to be a bleed off valve that you can open and get any excess water. You can also shut the water off and then run a cycle through your sprinkler system to get any excess water out of those pipes. Those are going to be pipes that freeze first or the quickest, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a plumber. I'm not a landscaper. I don't know. But in my personal experience, those are usually the things that pop first. There's usually also some piping out along the edge of your house that is, kind of controls your sprinkler system. That's where those shut-off valves and the bleed valves are going to be. You can buy insulated bags that are designed kind of to cover those, as well as some heating elements that you plug into a wall. You put the little strap over those, and that'll help keep those warm. I know in 2020, when there was the great Texas freeze, where the power grid went down, those things were popping off in my neighborhood, mine included, left and right. I mean, everybody was blowing those. The bad thing about a freeze like this in the southern states, where you have a lot of burst pipes, not only is it the inconvenience of the pipe bursting itself and the water damage, but every plumber in your area is going to be tied up, and it could take days or weeks before you're able to get somebody to come fix it so that you can turn your water back on. That's why, as somebody that's prepper aware, prepper minded, I would advise to kind of take precautions, A, to protect against that, but B, know how to respond if it happens and what to do. Having extra water on hand, get a couple of cases of water for drinking, fill up your bathtub and use that water for cleaning as well as flushing your toilets. Now, sometimes you can fill up your bathtub, and then overnight all that water, there's a slow leak so you can buy on Amazon or whatever additional kind of drain covers to plug that so that you're not losing that water. Because I've had it happen to me, where you fill up the bathtub so that you have some emergency water for cleaning and flushing toilets, but then overnight all that water drains out. So you may want to look at potentially getting another sort of cover for your drain in your bathtub if you think you might be doing that. They're relatively cheap, a couple of bucks on Amazon. One thing that we don't think about when we have these Arctic freezes, these polar vortexes, is loss of power. Up north, you'll see it. You're a little bit more used to it because you'll have wintry precipitation that will freeze on tree branches. It weighs them down. They fall. They hit power lines. they can also weigh down the power lines themselves. So you can experience power outages along with these deep freezes. That's why, having a plan for that is also going to be a good idea. How can I cook food? And one of the things I recommend, if it's just you and your significant other or a small family, these freeze dried meals that are really popular with campers are a great idea because all you have to do is boil water. And there are a lot of ways that we'll cover in a minute on how to boil water when you don't have power. But these freeze dried meals, all you do, hold on, I'll show you one here in just a second. Do they taste good? They're not bad. Okay, I've tried several of them. I used to do a thing on my TikTok channel, which is the same thing, Dad Dangerously, where I would do a tasting of freeze dried prepared meals. They're okay. It's a freeze dried meal. It's not like I'm dining at a Michelin star restaurant and don't expect it to be. You do, for some reason, I noticed they all are pretty low calorie. They'll still have quite a bit of protein, but they're very low calorie. So if you're for prolonged survival, if you're worried about calories in versus calories out, just be aware that for some reason they all seem to be pretty low calorie, even ones that are like just pasta dishes. So be aware of that. So here's one, for example. This is one. So here's one, for example. This is biscuits and gravy. I think I got this at Academy. You can get these at Walmart, Academy, REI, any camping store, anything like that. Any sports store are going to have these because they're very popular with backpackers. And again, all you do, you add a cup and a half of boiled water to it, and you stir it up. You let it sit for 5 or 7 minutes. The instructions are on the back. You stir it up, let it sit for another 7 minutes, and then you're ready to go. That's all you have to do. So anything where, I really like food. If you're trying to do this on a budget, trying to do it cheap, but you want to have something, ramen, macaroni and cheese, pasta, anything where all you got to do is boil water and you can have food. Again, it takes, if you don't have anything to eat, the normal average human being can go about 3 weeks before they starve, which we don't want that to happen. This is an easy way to get some food in you. You feel full. It's easy to prepare, even in situations where you don't have power. If you have some bottled water that you can boil, you can make yourself a meal. Same thing, like pasta. You can just boil pasta. Beans, I tell everybody, if you're getting into prepping, your dry goods, your rice and beans are great things to store because they have an extremely long shelf life. Beans stored in a Mylar bag will last 25 years with oxygen absorbers. The problem with beans is they take a long time to cook. Even if you're capable of soaking your beans overnight, like in your refrigerator, when you go to cook them, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours of simmering. And depending on how you're doing that, if you can build a campfire and you have plenty of wood, great, no problem, easy. But if you're living in an apartment or you don't have access to firewood or some other way to where you could simmer a pot of beans for 2 to 3 hours, it makes that a bit more challenging as to, hey, I just have to boil a cup and a half of water, pour it into a package, and I'm good to go. Problem with those packages, those pre-prepared freeze-dried meals, is they can be a little expensive. That's why I recommend them if you have a small family, 2 or 3 people. They'll run you about $7 to $8 per package. There's usually 2 to 3 servings per package, but really, Americans, myself included, we're a bit on the fluffier side. One of those bags is usually, it's not quite enough for 2 people. Can be, depending on how hungry you are. So yeah, if you have an electric range, you can still cook on that. If there's gas lines have not been compromised, you can still fire up your gas-powered stoves, your gas-powered ranges. The electric lighting mechanism, the starter, when you turn the dial, you hear that click, click, click. That's the little ignition source. That won't work, but you can, take a lighter, hold it over there, turn the gas on, they'll light just fine. You can also use a piece of spaghetti. If you don't have a long match, you're a little nervous about getting your hand in there, you can light a piece of dry spaghetti, and that'll burn, and you can put it over there and light your gas range and still cook off it. Very important. If you're going to do anything like that, have some battery-powered CO2 monitors, especially cooking or any sort of heating implement that you may want to use during one of these cold power outages scenarios. Make sure you have proper ventilation and CO2 monitors. Those are one of the most deadly things. CO2 gas during a power outage during cold weather is the number one killer. It just is. You've got to be aware of that. Have proper ventilation. If you can cook outside away from your home, do that. I understand if you have physical limitations, if the weather is just so bad you can't, try to cook, under the vent in your kitchen and have that on. Put a fan on, open a door or a window. Obviously, you're going to be letting in cold air. I just be really careful. CO2 is a killer, and I don't want to see anybody get hurt. So those are just a couple of tips for dealing if you're a southerner this is your first time dealing with Arctic air, very cold temperatures, what to expect, a few tips to try to help get you through it. Make sure you've got good blankets. Body heat goes a long way. It's time to snuggle up with the loved ones. Move your family into one bedroom if you can. Go ahead, I get it as a parent, you may be opposed to co-sleeping or whatever, but if you got little kids, they're little heaters, man. Throw them in bed with you and the missus. Keep you all warm. Get good blankets. You'll be all right. And here's the other thing. Most importantly, do not let your pride get in your way. If you need help, ask. Don't be hard-headed. If you have questions about how to shut off your water or find the valves, how to shut off or drain your sprinkler system, if you can't find the information you need online, ask somebody. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If things get bad, if you're cold and you run out of food and you run out of ways to keep warm, don't be afraid to call your local authorities, fire department, whoever, and ask for help if you need it. Don't be embarrassed. It happens. And I would much rather you do that than have something bad happen to you. As always, be prepared, but don't be weird about it. But if you're going to be weird, be fun weird, be cool weird. I'm trying to get better at making long-form content for YouTube. I'm trying. We'll get there eventually. It'll look nice. We'll figure it all out. But thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.